Welcome to Cause and Effect. You have spent time this week looking at variables. You have looked at them in relation to function notation and domain and range. We will now consider variables as far as how they affect each other. We'll examine and identify types of change and problem situations and describe relationships among these variables. We're going to be looking at two video footages of bungee jumps. In each, I want you to consider what types of variables need to be mathematically predictable in the sport of bungee jumping. Let's go ahead and look at our first video. And while we're looking at it, think about the variables that you'll notice. Now that you've seen the video and you understand what bungee jumping is, what are some of the variables that a company would need to consider before they install a bungee jump ride at an amusement park, let's say? Pause the video and see if you can come up with some of these variables. Okay, well hopefully some of the variables you thought about were things like how stretchy is the bungee cord? Or how long is the bungee cord? Or what about the weight of the jumper? How do those things interact in order to create a safe bungee jump? Now let's look at a second video. And in this video, what I want you to focus on is potentially the variable calculation errors. Think about the variables you thought about in the first video, and then think about maybe in this video, what types of errors did they make?
Here he is, Big Doug. Make sure, son. Scouts. Crikey, that's high. Here we go. 3. God, Doug. Hey! 3, 2. Oh, he's gone. He's gone already. Here we go.
In this video, you can see that things didn't quite turn out the way they'd hoped. So what were some of the variable calculation errors? Pause the video and see if you can come up with some. Hopefully what you were considering was perhaps the change in jumper weight that caused a change in the stretch of the cord. We need to make sure we understand that connectionship, the relationship between the key variables. Also, what about the starting height? Did the jumper start from a different starting height? How about the length of the cord or the structure of the cord or the weight of the jumper? All those things, all those variables play a part in making sure that we have a safe bungee jump. Let's think about this situation. Let's look at other variables. Let's start off with safety. Suppose that operators of 5-star amusement park are considering installation of a bungee jump. How could they design and operate the jump so that people of different weights could have safe but exciting jumps? So think about the variables we need to consider when making sure that the bungee apparatus is safe. And then B, suppose one test with a 50-pound jumper stretched a 60-foot bungee cord to a length of 70 feet. What patterns would you expect in a table or graph showing the stretched length of the 60-foot bungee cord for jumpers of different weights? So in other words, here we have a jumper weight of 50 pounds and the cord stretched 70 feet. What if we had a jumper who weighed 100 pounds? What can we expect the cord length to be after it's stretched? And so on and so forth. Think about why it's important to collect data. It's important because we want to make sure that our apparatus is safe. So if we can collect enough data, we can compare our variables. We can establish a cause and effect relationship. Now, if we look down here on C, how could Five Star Amusement Park find the price to charge each customer so that daily income from the bungee jump attraction is maximized? So now we also have to consider our income. What price should we choose? At what point are we charging too much and we don't have enough customers? Or at what point are we charging too little and we have a huge line of customers? And then finally, D, what other safety and business problems would Five Star Amusement Park have to consider in order to set up and operate the bungee attraction safely and profitably? So at this time, pause the video, go through these questions in your mind, maybe even sketch some answers on your paper. So let's look back at A. How could they design and operate the bungee jump attraction so that it's safe? Well, we have to consider the relationship between the jumper weights and the stretch of the cord. So going back to collecting data, we would want to make sure to test the cord for a maximum weight. So we would want to see at what point is the cord stretch going to stretch too far. We would also want to test different cords for people of different weights. So perhaps if somebody weighs between 0 and 100 pounds, we could use one cord, but we would need a stronger cord if somebody weighed over 100 pounds or over 200 pounds. Let's examine the table now. So if we have a jumper weight of 50 pounds, the cord length stretches to 70 feet. And I've gone ahead and plotted approximately where that first point would lie, and that's right here. What can we predict is going to happen? Well, as our jumper weight increases, what will happen to our stretched cord? Most likely the stretched cord will also increase, and we'll get a graph that rises from left to right. Okay, how about C? How could the amusement park find a price to charge each customer? What did you come up with? We want to maximize our income. Well, we want to make sure to consider how the change in one variable affects the value of the other variable. Some of the things you might have thought about were to research other park prices. What are they charging? We could also take a survey of our park customers and then finally adjust based on demand. So if we did charge a certain price and we weren't getting enough customers, we might want to lower that price in order to get more customers. If, on the other hand, we had a line that stretched out of the park because our price was so low, we may need to raise our price. The other consideration is that we can't charge a price so low that we don't have any profit. All right, look at D. What other safety and business problems would the amusement park have to consider in order to set up and operate the bungee attraction safely and profitably? To answer this question, there's a lot of different variables we could consider. We might need to consider the training of the people who are operating it. We also, as stated before, need to consider our total costs. What if we have to rent the bungee machine? What if we have to repair or replace or inspect our ropes on a regular basis? There's a lot of different variables that would play into factoring whether or not our bungee jump is safe and whether or not it is profitable. So where do we go from here? You will explore some of these relationships related to how the change in one variable affects the value of the other variable in your assignment coming up. Here are some focus questions again for you to think about. How is the stretch of a bungee cord related to the weight of a bungee jumper? We answered that today, but I want you to think about that in your future assignment. Also, how are the number of customers and income for a bungee jump related to the price charged for a jump? And finally, how can data, tables, graphs, and rules relating variables be used to answer questions about such relationships between variables? You will find an example with some rules in your assignment on the next page.